This is the Louie Tee Network.
I'm ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
Overtime! And we head to overtime.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie Tee? Welcome to Sunday Night Football Overtime. Sheer dominance. The Denver Broncos got caught up in the black hole and got sucked into the abyss. Wow, that was dominant. That was a statement. The Oakland Raiders are not playing. We're going to jump into this thing, man. The score doesn't indicate how dominant in a performance this was by the Oakland Raiders. Now, they still got another team in this division that's watching them very closely. But this was a statement heard round the National Football League. These young boys out there in Oaktown, not to be played with. We're going to get to that in a second, though. First and foremost, welcome to the Louie Tee Network. I, of course, am your set man, Louie Tee, here breaking down every single game in the National Football League in week number 9, including this Sunday Night Football AFC West family business affair, Denver Broncos, Oakland Raiders. But if you haven't already done so, before we jump into all of that, subscribe to the Louie Tee Network for more great content in 2016 and beyond. We're changing the game. Want you to help us do that by hitting that red subscribe button to help us continue to power on and gain more viewers as we're doing it big over here. Want you to be a part of it. So subscribe to the Louie Tee Network. Also, I am on Twitter. @InTheLabRoom is the Twitter handle. If you want to know when I'm going live, if you want to chop it up with your man Louie Tee, use Twitter as your vehicle. @InTheLabRoom is the Twitter handle. All of my social media platforms are right there scrolling up and down the screen. So be sure to follow me on Twitter. Also, I'm on Facebook. In the Lab Room is the Facebook page. Go ahead, give me the thumbs up. I'm so anxious, man. I'm happy for Raiders fans. They've been suffering for so long. They've been waiting for a night like this. And I know you didn't win anything yet, but damn, it feels good. Don't it feel good to be a gangster? Celebrate! Your team just went out and kicked your rival's ass. And there is nothing better in football. I mean, nothing. In terms of regular season, than laying a smackdown on a divisional rival that you absolutely can't stand on primetime television in front of the whole nation to see. Celebrate as we go into likes, dislikes, banana in the tailpipe. And I may have some little inconsistencies on the screen. Damn all of that. Let's jump into likes, dislikes, banana in the tailpipe. Like, dislike, banana in the tailpipe.
What y'all, the second team?
We're the first team.
Yeah, we're not gonna fall for a banana in the tailpipe.
You're not gonna fall for the banana in the tailpipe?
All right. So, Raiders get it done, man. And I'm here to tell you, this is something that I did not see. We're going to change this score, man, because I don't want to give off the indication that this game was as close as it was, because it wasn't. So I'm going to change this score before we jump into this breakdown real quick, because Raiders dominated this game, and the score doesn't really indicate that, but I still want to give them their credit where it is due. So we're going to change this score real quick and get this thing going the way that we're supposed to. I was so anxious to get up here, get this thing started, that didn't change the scores up here on the home screen or on that screen, but we ready to rock and roll now. So likes, dislikes, banana in the tailpipe. I mean, man, oh man, let's jump into some of this. We always start with the road team, so we're going to start with the Denver Broncos, obviously, as they were on the road in this big AFC West family business showdown. If these two teams say they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, you know the rest. So let's start with the Denver Broncos in their first half likes in this game. The red zone defense early for me was a big like for the Raiders or the Broncos. If not for the red zone defense, this game is not even close in the first half. The Raiders dominated the first quarter and a half of this game by just having the field position battle won. And we'll talk about some of the things I didn't like from the Denver Broncos and what allowed them to stay in that rut that they were in early in this game and allowed the Oakland Raiders to really dominate the early portion of this game and really set the tone for what the game would be like for the remainder of the night. But the two stops in the red zone early to stop the Raiders from getting in the end zone really gave the Denver Broncos a chance in this game without those stops. If one of those, just one of those are a touchdown, this is a game that's probably not even as close as the final score indicates. I don't know if we even have a 2-score game. This may be a 3-score blowout. And we're talking about the Raiders as one of the best teams in the league after this thing. If they go and run away with this game, say 37-13, I mean, that could have happened. This could have been that kind of night if this Denver Broncos red zone defense doesn't show up early in this ball game. The touchdown drive to battle back to hit Norwood, and that was a really beautiful throw by Trevor Siemian there. He rolls out to his right, has to stop and set his feet, plants. He's under heavy duress from Khalil Mack. He's going to get smashed. He knows it, and he lets go a frozen rope down to Jordan Norwood, who catches it, backs into the end zone, falls down, touchdown, and gets the Denver Broncos back into the ball game as they were really feeling the pressure of what the Raiders were doing in this game. That was a huge turn of events there to get on the board and make it 13-7, get them right back in this ball game, 1-score possession after that touchdown. So you're thinking, okay, now we got ourselves a ball game, folks. We're going to see what happens now. And the Raiders went right down the field and got their touchdown right back. And it seemed like that was the theme of the night. You get something, all right, give it back to me. It's mine. And so they would go back and take that lead and push it back to wherever it was. You get a field goal, I'll go get a field goal. You get a touchdown, I'm going to go get a touchdown. So that was a big play at the time to get the Denver Broncos on the board back in the game at 13-7. Late first half field goal. I'm a huge proponent of getting points right before the half. If you can get anything, field goal, touchdown, doesn't really matter to me. Points are points right before the half. They're precious. If you can get on the scoreboard before the half, it gives you a little bit of momentum, especially if you get the football first coming out of the halftime break. Even if you don't get it, I mean, still going into the break knowing, all right, we've cut the deficit to such and such, or we elevated our lead and pushed it out to such and such. All right, let's keep our foot down on the gas pedal, and if you're behind, all right, we can come back. We can do this. Let's go ahead and make this run. So I love getting points before the half. They had an even bigger opportunity. I feel like even though they got 3, you feel like if you're the Denver Broncos, you missed an opportunity. Siemian could have been a little bit better with that throw. We've seen Emmanuel Sanders catch that diving ball at least twice this season. I know he caught it once against Cincinnati. I think he caught it once last week against San Diego as well. So we've seen him catch these diving passes down the field, and this just was one that he could not corral. They missed a golden opportunity. TJ Carey was beat on the play. You had an opportunity to get in the end, and that would have hurt. That would have stung the Oakland Raiders because all of a sudden now, first half that you dominated, you're only up 6 at 20-14 at the halftime break. Instead, they have to settle for a field goal, 55-yarder by Mormon. That's a hell of a kick. Not Mormon. Forgot their damn kicker's name, but a hell of a kick. 55 yards, that's no cinch. We saw Seabass miss from 48 in this game. It's a hell of a kick to go into the halftime break feeling good about yourself there at 20-10. McManus, Brandon McManus is his name. So a big kick by McManus there to give them an opportunity to feel like, okay, we're building something. We're only down 10 now instead of being down essentially 2 touchdowns at 20-7. So big play there. Let's get to the Oakland Raiders and their first half likes in this game. The start to the game is my first like. I mean, how can you not be in love with the way the Raiders started this game? I mean, to think that. And my big thing, the reason why I didn't think the Raiders were going to be successful in this game is because I said this moment that has built up. I mean, we built this game up so big, and the Raiders, they were treating this like a playoff game. I mean, fans and even the players were, you could see they were kind of feeding into that whole notion that this is a huge game. We got to have it. And I'm like, the Broncos have been here. They've done this. They know what this is like. The Raiders just don't know what this means. Sunday Night Football, the biggest stage that we have in the NFL in the regular season is Sunday Night Football. You're at home, a place where you haven't been great this season. You haven't been terrible. You're only at 1-2, but you haven't been great there. Denver is a team that you have struggled with, and even though you beat them last year, You should have beat them twice, honestly. But even though you beat them last year, you felt like, this is a tough Broncos team. They're battle-tested. They're down a couple of guys and they're hurting, but doesn't matter. They're the Denver Broncos, and they've done this before. And I'm like, the Raiders haven't. And I think this spot is going to be too big for them. They're going to put too much pressure on themselves. They're going to come out tight. This is what the Raiders do. They come out tight every game and flat and allow teams to hang around. And that was the direct opposite of what happened here. It's like they flipped a switch. This moment, they embraced it. They didn't allow this moment to consume them. They embraced this moment. They jumped on the Denver Broncos early in this game. Got out to a 13-0 lead. And honestly speaking, this should have been 20-0. This should have been 17-0. This should have been 21-0. They should have had this game and run away with it in the first half. If you don't have a slip by Seth Roberts on the first drive, or you don't have a situation where I felt like I didn't really agree with all the play calling on that second drive that led to the second field goal, you're looking at a situation where the Raiders could have run away with this game in the first quarter. I mean, really, they dominated this game, but in any event, the start to this game, they forced 4 straight 3-and-outs to start this game, turned those 3-and-outs into 13 points, and really jumped the Denver Broncos before they even know what hit them in this game. Gotta love the start to the game for the Oakland Raiders. Could have been a lot better if both of those field goals are touchdowns, but if just one of them is a touchdown, I think this is a totally different game in the sense that the Denver Broncos are never even in this ball game at all tonight. That's how dominant the Raiders were. Speaking of dominance, the next the run game. The Oakland Raiders dominated on the ground. This is something I've been asking for them to do this season. Now, I didn't expect them to stick with it as long as they did, and sometimes I thought it was to a fault. I thought they were somewhat lacking aggressiveness in the third quarter. We're going to talk about that a little bit. I thought they had their hands on the Broncos' throat, and they were trying to crush their windpipe, and then they took their hand off. It's almost like they were playing a game with the Denver Broncos, like, okay, I'm going to choke you out. And right when they were about to black out, they took their hand off their throat and let the Broncos breathe. Don't let them breathe. Put those boys out of their misery. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on, but the run game was so dominant tonight. Over 230 yards rushing for the Oakland Raiders in this game. Latavius Murray over 100 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was spectacular in this game. Jalen Richard, another guy that was outstanding running the football. They sprinkled in a little bit of DeAndre Washington. They were absolutely 100%, no equivocations, dominant tonight on the ground. And the Denver Broncos had no answer. And I talked about this on a program that I do every week, The Will to Win, and those guys are awesome. And I talked about how the Denver Broncos are a team you can run on. I actually talked about this last week. Melvin Gordon went over 100 yards on this Broncos defense. You can run on the Denver Broncos. I was telling my dad that as we were watching the game. I said, look, you can run on this Broncos defense. It's not the same group from last year with Malik Jackson and Danny Trevathan up front. This is a totally different unit. You can run on these boys. They are not bulletproof up front anymore. And you saw it again tonight, and the Raiders took advantage. And they talked about that left side of the offensive line with Donald Penn, Kelechi Osemele, and Rodney Hudson. And that's where they ran the football tonight. And they were flat out dominant tonight, really taking it to the Denver Broncos for 60 minutes on the ground, something that the Raiders haven't done all season long. They'll sprinkle in a carry here, carry there, but the passing game has been the catalyst. Tonight, the running game was the driving force behind this dominant performance. Late first half touchdown. I thought that was a key touchdown to go up 20-7 at the time. You dominated the first half, but yet you're only up 13-7. Having another field goal in that spot would have been crippling because that's a win for the Broncos. They go down and get a field goal. 16-10 doesn't feel the same as 20-10. That was a huge touchdown to end the first half and get that lead out to double digits and really put some separation between themselves and the Broncos again in this game. Murray with a touchdown run there to get into the end zone. Let's go to the dislikes in the first half. We go back to the Raiders, and this time we go to go back to the Broncos, and this time we go to the first half. The drop by Virgil Green on third down on the second possession of the game, it helped this Raiders offense and this Raiders team in general get off to the start that they had in this game. You want to make a statement. You want to get the crowd to sit down. You want to give even if you got a punt on the next set of downs, you want to give your punter some space to punt the football, catch that football if you're Virgil Green. And instead of the Raiders seeming like the uptight team that hadn't been here before, it seemed like the Broncos were that team. And some of that has to do with Trevor Siemian. I mean, he started the game 0 of 7 before finally getting a completion. Now, again, he didn't get any help from his receivers. Demaryius Thomas drops one across the middle of the field on a dragger where he gets blasted. Shades of that Super Bowl hit that he took from Cam Chancellor early in that ball game that set the tone. I felt like that Reggie Nelson hit was a tone setter as well. But he wasn't getting any help from his teammates to catch the football, make a play for him. And so he started the game rough. And again, he hasn't been here. That's the thing. We just assume because the defense is the same and that, there's a lot of moving parts here. Devontae Booker's never been in this kind of spot before. First place on the line on the Sunday Night Football. He's never been on that stage. Trevor Siemian's never been on that stage. So even though this defense and a lot of the parts around them are the same, this is a Denver Broncos team that at key positions are lacking the experience you need to be able to rise to the occasion in ball games like this. You saw it tonight. That lack of experience really hurt them offensively, especially early in this football game. The start to the game is my next dislike. I just talked about the drop by Virgil Green. I talked about how about their return man continuing to come out of the end zone repeatedly after getting stopped inside the 20-yard line every time. You would think after the first one, you say, all right, I'm going to be a little bit more judicious with my decision-making in terms of coming out. I'll be a little bit more cautious in terms of whether I come out or not. Nope, I'm coming out again. Nope, I'm coming out for a third time. He never had a conscience. He'd come out each time, and each time the Raiders were willing and able to stop him behind the 20-yard line, inside the 15 sometimes. And that put the Denver Broncos in a tough spot because when your quarterback is young and it's loud and he's struggling to start the game off, you're not helping him at all by putting him in a tough spot like starting 1st and 10 from 13 or starting 1st and 10 from the 15-yard line. It's a tough spot to be in, and they struggled early in this game. 4 3-and-outs. The defense didn't respond the way you would like them to by giving up a ton of first downs. Now, in the red zone, they buckled down initially. Then they gave up the touchdown on the third possession, which allowed this lead to get out to 13-0. And so I just thought the beginning of the game was disastrous for the Denver Broncos. The run defense. I talked about the run defense being porous, and it's something that has really crippled this Broncos defense this season. The pass defense has been outstanding, but you know what those guys are about, especially with the guys up front that can get to the quarterback. The back end is equally as talented, but the run defense, make no mistake about it, is the Achilles heel of this Denver Broncos defense. You want success against them, run the football right at these boys. A lot of the yards tonight gained by the Raiders right up the A gap. I mean, serious damage was being done in the A and B gaps tonight, and there was no answer. And that's been the problem for the Denver Broncos. It hasn't been outside runs. This is a fast defense. They can flow sideline to sidelines. Their problem is in the middle, in the interior. No one is afraid of their defense, and teams are gutting them right up the A and B gaps, and it happened again tonight. Bradley Roby, that pass interference at the end of the first half, critical mistake on Amari Cooper setting up the touchdown. Really, he had a rough night. And it's a situation where I think just because of one guy being missing, it just took that whole secondary and just sent them out of whack. Because you can get away with it when you're playing against San Diego because they don't have the type of weapons the Raiders possess. But when you're playing up against a team where their first two receivers are legit number 1 and 2 receivers, and you could argue Crabtree, as Derek Carr says, is a number 1 in his mind as well. Either way you slice it, they've got targets, and they can go 3 or 4 deep at the receiver position with Seth Roberts and Andre Holmes. And then when you start trying to key in on those guys, they could throw it to Walford, or you could throw it to one of their running backs out of the backfield, or hell, even Jameis Olawale. So they got weapons. And when you start having to check these guys out wide and their slots they were down in their 4th and 5th option at the cornerback position. They were struggling. They were hurting. You could see it, and the Raiders took advantage of that. early in the game. And Bradley Roby, I thought he struggled in this game. Chris Harris Jr. struggled in this game as well. They struggled as a unit in this game, did the Denver Broncos defensively in the secondary, especially with a lot of holding, grabbing, and officials were not allowing that to ride tonight as the Denver Broncos picked up a boatload of penalties, especially in the second half. We'll get to that a little bit later on. And then giving up the late touchdown in the first half is my final dislike for the Broncos. Look, bottom line is you defensively, you were on the field a ton in the first half because the offense just simply wasn't able to sustain itself. However, you have to find a way to dig down deep and not give up that touchdown late in the first half. You've worked too hard to put yourself in a position to maybe strike in the second half. By giving up that touchdown, you really limited your opportunities to do that. Now, it would have been great if your offense could have came back and got that touchdown to Emmanuel Sanders, but Eman Sand could not come. That was a tough catch if he would have made it. He couldn't come down with that football. They had to settle for a 55-yard Brandon McManus field goal. So giving up that touchdown late was vital. It was a critical error on the part of the Denver Broncos. And give some credit to the Oakland Raiders for moving the football down the field and getting it into the end zone and forcing the issue. Derek Carr throwing the ball deep, and I love that about Carr. He will force you to make plays or you're going to get a flag. He's going to force the issue, though, and they've had a lot of success doing that this season. Let's go to the Oakland Raiders and their first half dislikes. Seth Roberts slipping on third down on the first possession. Look, that's an easy first down, and me and my dad talked about that play after it happened, and I think we came to the conclusion that he was expecting contact. He caught that football with his back turned to the end zone, and on a shallow route to the outside like that, you're expecting someone to come up and be there, and there was no Denver Bronco in sight. And I think he was ready for contact. He was bracing for contact, and none came, and he hesitated for a second. Then he turned around and looked and said, oh, wow, I got a first down if I just turn around and get up the field. He was so anxious at that point because two Denver Broncos are now coming down at him very fast. He sticks his foot in the ground and he slips down. And I thought that was an easy first down if he just turns up the field. Damn the contact that's coming that you're expecting. Damn that. Get up the field and get the yards. And if he would have just done that, that would have been an easy first down, maybe even a touchdown. There was so much space out there. Wasted opportunity to really send a statement on that opening possession of the game with a touchdown. Then you have settling for field goals is my next dislike. Either your first two possessions, just talked about Seth Roberts falling down, and then the second possession, you having to settle for another Seabass field goal. At that time, it seemed like, oh man, they're wasting opportunities to run away with this game. I wasn't a huge fan of the two field goals early on. And Derek Carr was politicking. And I want to say after the first one, when Seth Roberts slipped, he's over there, hey, this is all we need. No, get your ass off the field. This is a big-time game. This ain't the time for rolling the dice and trying to be cute. And nah, we ain't trying to do that. Get points. You work too hard to get the football down the field. Get points. And that's what they did. But settling for field goals, you know the mantra, you know the motto. Field goals don't win games, touchdowns do. And settling for field goals early on, I thought was going to come back to haunt this Oakland Raiders team. Seabass with a 48-yard miss. I told my dad as that kick was being lined up, I said, look, Seabass is good for a miss now. And we saw him miss a couple of times versus Tampa last week. He's not immune to missing now. And he's starting to become a little bit inconsistent. So 48 yards, especially when he's on that right hash. I think that's when he struggles the most. When he's on that right hash, that football seems to have a tendency to start towards that left or that right upright, and then it drifts and finds its way outside of that right upright. And he did it again in this game. And then giving up the field goal right before the half, it's not as big a deal. You could have given up a touchdown. It could have been a lot worse. If Eman Sand holds on to that football, you're giving up a touchdown before half, not a field goal. So it could have been a lot worse. You hate giving up anything, but it was a 55-yarder. Kudos to Brandon McManus for knocking that home. Could have been a lot worse. So I'm not going to beat the Raiders up for giving up that late first half field goal at all. Let's go back to the Denver Broncos, and this time we go to their second half likes. And to me, there's only one thing to really take away and like in the second half, and that's the Capri Bibbs screen for 69 yards and a touchdown. Pretty nifty screen there, and the moves to get into the end zone. Thought there was a little bit of a block in the back down the field, but great play by Bibbs to set up some blocks down the field and cut it back. I thought Murray could have done that once on a run where he got to the outside. It's just him and T.J. Warden. He just decided to casually run out of bounds, 45 yards down the field. I'm like, hey, bro, are you 6'2", 6'3", 230 pounds, man? If you don't cut that back inside and see if TJ Ward is really trying to get you on the ground because TJ Ward had a tough night tackling. See if he's going to make the tackle. Don't run out of bounds. Don't give him a free pass after you skedaddled 45 yards down the field. Man, make him make a tackle. And Capri Bibbs on that screen made guys have to make tackles, and they weren't able to do that, and he got in the end zone. Love that play, and it gave them a chance in this game when it looked like it was all over. That got it to 30-20, and it forced the Raiders to have to execute on the offensive side of the football late to put this game away. That's the only like, though. Nothing really went well for the Broncos in the second half of this game. Let's go to the Oakland Raiders and their second half likes. Marquette King in the special teams unit. Marquette King was special tonight. And I've watched the maturation of Marquette King, and it's a sight for sore eyes. It's so beautiful to watch this young man come of age because when he first got in the league, he used to just kick the hell out of the ball. Kick it as long and as far and as hard as I can, and wherever the hell it lands, good for the football, but I'm just going to kick it. I'm going to pound this thing. And now he's kicking the football with purpose. Don't just kick the football just because you can. You need to try to find ways to down this ball inside the 5, inside the 10. Don't kick it into the end zone and give you a net of 37 yards. Down that bad boy at the 2, down it at the 5, down it at the 7. And there were some crucial stretches in the second half where he backed the Broncos up. That first drive, Raiders ate up 7 minutes of the third quarter clock, got no points. Drive stalled out right around the 45-yard line of the Denver Broncos. Got to punt the football. What does Marquette King do? Kicks it, and it's down at the 2-yard line. These are plays that we don't talk about that impact the game. The Denver Broncos struggled to get out of their own end zone, had to go and punt the football again, gave the Raiders back some great field position. Raiders weren't able to do anything with it again. Marquette King comes in, punts the football. It's downed by Andre Holmes at the 1. Now, Denver Broncos should have challenged that because that ball was touched by Andre Holmes before he reestablished himself. He stepped on the goal line, should have been challenged, but it wasn't. Football gods righted that wrong anyway. They gave a pass interference penalty to DJ Hayden down the field, and so they got out of the shadow of their own end zone. But Marquette King was special in this game, and I thought the special teams unit did some really good things. They were huge in the second half of this ball game. The offensive line is the next like on my list. My goodness. Derek Carr built a house back there throwing a football. I think he was only pressured once by Von Miller and sacked on a third down on the second possession when they had to settle for the field goal on the second time. But other than that, he pretty much was upright all night, clean as a whistle. And they didn't really give the tackles any help. Donald Penn was dominant. Austin Howard got beat that one time by Von Miller, and then after that, nothing was really heard again from Von Miller the remainder of the night. The running game, like I said already, dominant as dominant can be. So the offensive line, which has been a staple for this Raiders team and the strength of this team this season, give them some more credit, man. Do you hear that? Nah, me neither. That's the Denver Broncos defense. I didn't hear them tonight. They were quiet. You know why? That offensive line put their ass to sleep. That's why. Give that offensive line some credit. Those boys balled tonight. Forced fumble by Khalil Mack. And I'll take it a step further. This defense is on my likes list. And really for the entire game, not just the second half. Who thought that in week 9 we'd be talking about the Raiders defense as a strength in any football game? I don't give a damn who the opponent was. This Raiders defense just 3 weeks ago was miserable. And now, 3 weeks later, after beating the Jacksonville Jaguars soundly, after finding a way to win despite 23 penalties for over 200 yards in a ball game and beating Tampa Bay, and now beating the Denver Broncos, this defense is gaining confidence by the week. Okay? They looked good against Jacksonville. I thought they did some really good things against Tampa. This was their best performance this season by far. Damn a Tennessee early in the season when you only gave up 10 points. Damn any of those other games. This was an actual opponent that had some serious weapons that could do damage, and you dominated them 6 ways to Sunday. This was the best defensive performance. And no, they didn't force a boatload of turnovers. They only forced 2 in this game, one coming late with the game basically out of reach and a desperation heave. But it doesn't matter. This was a dominant performance. The run game, you put them out of their misery early. You told Devontae Booker not tonight, bruh. Maybe some other time. Not tonight. 10 carries, 22 yards. Go sit your ass down. The passing game, they didn't get on track early. They had their moments. Trevor Siemian had his moments in the game, but for the most part, they did a bang-up job there as well. Thought they put enough pressure on him to make him uncomfortable enough to have to get out of the pocket and create. I thought they did some really good things. Did this Oakland Raiders defense. Give them credit. They were outstanding in this football game. You go to the dislikes for the second half. We go back to the Denver Broncos. It's the offense. Let's start there. The offense was miserable all night long. I thought that they never gave this team a chance. After the Broncos got those stops early in the game and forced the Raiders to kick field goals, the offense needed to rise up. And it starts with special teams bringing the football out. Why the hell do you keep bringing the football out and putting this offense in a bad spot at the 15, at the 13? But get over that, okay? Get on the field, find a way to get a first down. The first down is always the hardest first down. After you get over that hump of getting the initial first down and moving the sticks, then it becomes easier. You can get into a rhythm. They just couldn't find that rhythm in the beginning of the game. And hell, I'll take it a step further. The second half of the game was equally as bad, and they didn't even find the end zone in the second half of the game. They did on the Capri Bibbs screen, but in terms of methodically driving the football, they didn't have enough rhythm in the second half to do that. And it gives some credit to this Raiders defense for putting them in a position to not be able to extend drives by getting off the field on third down, setting them up in some third and long situations. That run game wasn't a factor in this game, and it's because they could not run. I didn't think they made a conscious enough effort to run early in the game, and I think that the Raiders built confidence to the point where they couldn't run in this game. And so the offense just was anemic. I didn't think anybody stepped up and made any big plays outside of Capri Bibbs. You had a couple of drops by some Bronco receivers. Virgil Green, like I said, with a huge drop early. I just thought the offense was very stagnant, and we knew this could happen. I said this last week that Trevor Siemian doesn't scare anyone. He's not terrible, but he's not great either. And he's a guy right now. And this offense, when they're not getting turnovers from their defense, when they're not getting short fields, when the special teams isn't contributing with something, they can struggle. They kick a ton of field goals. And you saw that tonight. This is not an offense that scares anyone. They haven't been good offensively since week 4 or 3 versus Cincinnati, when Trevor Siemian went nuts and threw like 3 or 4 touchdown passes. They haven't been good offensively since then. Since he's gotten injured, they haven't been the same offensively this season. So thought the offense was a big problem. The fumble by Siemian was a huge deal because at that point in the game, you're starting to feel it now. You're down 23-13. You need something, and you need it now. And you're right around that 40-yard line, 45 midfield area. So you got some great field position right now. You need to do something. Even if it's a field goal to cut it to a one-score game, you need to do something now. And fumbling wasn't what you needed to do. And so that was a huge play by Khalil Mack, forcing a fumble. Also getting in on the action was the other defensive end, outside linebacker, Bruce Irvin. So huge play by this Oakland Raiders defense there, forcing a fumble of Trevor Siemian. Another dislike are the penalties. I thought this secondary was too handsy all night long. The officials, I thought, didn't let these guys play. There were a couple of plays. I'm like, come on, really? You're going to call that? But really, these Denver Bronco defenders, and what do you expect when you're down to your 4th and your 5th corner? No excuses here. This is a league of attrition, all right? Everyone's dealing with injuries. No one wants to hear your pity story about your guys being out. Find a way to get it done, and so they just didn't get it done. Guys were grabbing, weren't looking for the football, molesting receivers, and because of that, this Raiders team had a number of calls go their way that set them up in prime position to get in the end zone. You had the pass interference in the end zone on Bradley Roby that set up a L-Train touchdown. You had a couple of penalties down there where you got a 5th corner. I don't even know this kid's name, Dixon, getting an PI. Then you get another PI, holding penalty on Chris Harris Jr. Then you get another penalty in the end zone on Bradley Roby, and that's a pass interference. That puts it at the 1. They just had too many penalties in this game. Raiders, second half dislikes, taking a foot off the gas pedal in the third. I thought they were overly overly methodical in the third quarter. Like, you're up 20-10. For some reason, to me, it felt like they were like, hey, we're up 10. We're good. Let's just run the football. Let's just run out the clock. It felt like they were playing the clock instead of playing the Denver Broncos. Like I said, I felt like they had their neck around the throat of the Denver Broncos, and all they had to do was squeeze until there was no more life left. But instead, they would squeeze up until the point where the Broncos were about to pass out, and right when they were about to black out, they let them go. And the Broncos go, they're just trying to get as much oxygen. Put your foot, not your hand, put your foot and crush their larynx. Don't take your foot off the gas pedal. I thought the Raiders took a passive-aggressive approach in the third quarter that allowed the Denver Broncos to hang around. Kill these boys. Crush them. Send these boys a statement. Send them back to Mile High with their legs tucked, or their tails tucked between their legs. I thought you had a golden opportunity to really take that stake and drive it right into their heart. And you let them off the hook. And so I wasn't a fan of the third quarter for the Oakland Raiders. They didn't give up anything defensively, but they had opportunities offensively, and they just didn't take advantage of them. Thought they were too passive in the third quarter for my liking. And then the DJ Hayden pass interference penalty is my last dislike, or my second to last dislike. Really, it was pass interference, and the reason I hated it was because you had them pinned back deep. You get an incompletion there, and they're going to have to punt from the goal line again for the second consecutive possession. Instead, you allow them to get out of there with that pass interference. So I wasn't a huge fan of that by DJ Hayden. And then, of course, the final dislike is the Capri Bibbs 69-yard screen. Can't give that up. You're up big. I mean, you're routing these boys. It's 30-13. I mean, everybody's dancing and singing. We're having fun. And all of a sudden, you give up a 69-yard screen, and that happened in 30 seconds. And you're like, damn, there's still 5 minutes left in the game. They got all 3 of their timeouts. What the hell just happened? We just went from partying and getting ready to celebrate to all of a sudden now, damn, we got to actually go out and get a couple of first downs, or this thing could get pretty dicey. So don't do that. Don't do that. You dominated. Don't make this look close. Don't do that. Put these boys away, man. Don't give up a 69-yard screen. All right. So there are really no banana in the tailpipes for this, because I'm buying what the Oakland Raiders are selling now. Like, this was the game that, for me, of all the games this season, there were steps, and I talked about this with Raiders fans. There were steps that needed to be taken for this Raiders team to be right where you needed them to be, okay? There were some steps that had to be taken in order for you to say, all right, these guys are serious business. I think the first step for me was when they played against the Tennessee Titans on the road. It's a situation, and you could even throw Baltimore in there as well. These are situations you're like, okay, in the past, the Raiders would have found ways to lose these games. Hell, throw New Orleans in there as well, but just the road in general, finding a way to win instead of finding a way to lose. Raiders have done it all season long. They found ways to win. New Orleans going for 2. We know about that. That's well documented. In Baltimore, the late touchdown to Krabs to give you the 1-point victory there. In Tennessee, getting the stop late in the game to preserve the victory. Getting the touchdown to Krabs late in that ball game as well. That's huge. You go on and on and on and on. The touchdown to Seth Roberts in overtime versus Tampa Bay. These are all ways of the Raiders and examples of the Raiders finding ways to win on the road. But the one that I said, okay, you're a good team. You want me to believe you're a good team? Go to Jacksonville, smoke those boys. You're coming off of a gut-wrenching loss where you were just absolutely dominated by the Kansas City Chiefs at home. Go on the road and smoke Jacksonville. They're not a good team. Don't allow them to be in that game. You go over there and you beat them up. You're up big late, and they made a touchdown, made it look close, or a field goal, whatever the case was. You dominated that game. Good. I needed to see that. Check. All right. Now, you got a chance to beat Denver on Sunday Night Football. You want me to take you seriously? Go. Beat those boys. Check. And you didn't just beat them. You dominated them. This was gratifying. If you're a Raiders fan, this was gratifying, because this not only says, hey, we're serious about the winning this division, the AFC West, but we're serious in this conference. Like, I'm not afraid of the Patriots. I'm not afraid of fill in the blank. You pick a team, and I'll tell you I'm not afraid of them. If you're a Raiders fan, that's how you feeling right now. Not afraid of nobody, man. Steelers, what? Come on, Ravens, who? We beat them already. Stop your nonsense. Like, this is a huge win for the Oakland Raiders. No banana in the tailpipes here, man. These boys are for real. For the Denver Broncos, I'm not fault. They're banged up. And I don't like to make excuses for anybody. They're banged up. And you saw it tonight. They got gutted in the run game. They lost Derek Wolfe. That didn't help. They were already down Aqib Talib and Kayvon Webster. They're hurting right now. Brandon Marshall was dealing with a hamstring. He wasn't right. They're hurting right now. This is not the same Broncos team that we've come to know and love. Who cares? Nobody's making excuses. They got their asses handed to them tonight, man. This was an old-fashioned ass whooping, an old-fashioned passionate ass whooping. The Denver Broncos got their shoes, coat, and their hat taken by the Oakland Raiders. Let's get to where this game was won.
Well, wake her ass up! We're gonna win tomorrow!
I'll be over here like winning. Duh.
All right, for me, this game was simply won at the line of scrimmage. The Oakland Raiders dominated up front, rushing for over 230 yards in this game. Latavius Murray eclipsing the century mark, 3 touchdowns for him in this game. The offensive line of the Oakland Raiders protected Derek Carr for much of the night. Carr really didn't have his gaudy numbers and his huge statistical numbers that he's been putting up all season. He didn't need to because the ground game was so dominant. And then you turn around and you look at the Denver Broncos and you say to yourself, they couldn't run the football. Their run game was non-existent. Trevor Siemian really was never that comfortable in the pocket. I felt like the Oakland Raiders forced the issue there. They sacked him, forced a fumble of him in this game. The Denver Broncos were dominated up front, and that's where this game was won. The Oakland Raiders manhandled the Denver Broncos and punched those boys in the mouth. The little brother said, I'm tired of you picking on me. It's my turn now. And he punked his big brother. That was a huge, huge win for the Oakland Raiders. That's where this game was won. I've said everything I needed to say. Time to hear from you guys. So let's go ahead and wrap this huge, dominant performance by the Oakland Raiders, 30-20 over the Denver Broncos. 7-2 Raiders, 6-3 Denver Broncos. Let's wrap this thing up.
What the hell?
Yo, the sign is real simple, B. It says wrap it up. Wrap that shit up, B.
All right. So let's get to some of your comments. You guys watched this just like I did, and I'm anxious to see what you guys have to say. I know a lot of Raiders fans are so excited about this win. This was dominant. Let's see what we got. Andrew Kim says the Raiders are legit. Offense and defense came to play. I was most surprised by the defense. And if there was any banana in the tailpipe, it would have been that I can't believe this defense is that good after seeing what I've seen all season with them. But I'm going to tell you what, they're getting better. And that's what a young defense does. It gets better, generally. When you have talented football players and you have a bunch of different guys on the field, over time, it's supposed to get better. If these guys can stay healthy and mesh together and continue to play with one another, you start to learn what the guy next to you is going to do. It starts to all make sense to you. You get better, and the Raiders are getting better. Is it a finished product? No. Broncos had opportunities tonight that they missed, but that's fine. Okay? Even good defenses give up opportunities. That's why good defenses are good, because a lot of times those other teams don't take advantage of those opportunities because you've realized, damn, I don't get many opportunities. I got to hit it, and you put a lot of pressure on yourself, and you don't make those plays, and the Broncos didn't make those plays tonight, and a lot of that credit needs to be given to this the Oakland Raiders defense in this game. Bernard543 says, so many haters thought we were going to get exposed. Raiders came to play on both sides of the ball. 7-2, baby. Yeah, that was a big win, and I was one of those people that I didn't think you were going to get exposed. I just thought you weren't going to win this game, and I was just flat out wrong. This was a dominant performance by the Raiders. Jason Moore says, let's hear a Raiders. Yeah, Raiders got it done tonight. Jim Hoover says, how real are the Raiders? Did you watch the game tonight? I mean, the question shouldn't be how real are the Raiders. Real recognize real, and the Raiders are looking damn familiar. We should be asking, how real are the Denver Broncos? This isn't about the Raiders no more. How real are the Denver Broncos? Were they exposed tonight? Because that wasn't pretty at all. Now, I know they had a ton of injuries, but that doesn't explain why they look so anemic offensively in this game. Their injuries weren't on the offensive side. They were on the defensive side of the football. No excuses. See what else is being said. Andrew Kim says, I picked the Broncos, which I'm regretting since they lost. I only picked them because, for me, the big matchup was whether the Raiders defense would play lights out or not. And they did, and that's why they got the victory here. Let's keep going. Let's see what else we got. Andrew Kim says, and they did, and the Broncos offense wasn't that good, nor was the defense. I knew Oakland offense was great, but I didn't think they would steamroll a top 5 defense. I didn't think they would. I knew they could run the football. I didn't think they would stay committed, though. We've seen them run away from the success of the run game. The Raiders have run the football effectively all season long. That's the thing I don't understand, is that why Bill Musgrave feels like it's a necessity to have Derek Carr throw it 35 to 45 times every game when the run game has been pretty much consistent all season long. Guys are having 9 and 6 totes of the rock, and they're averaging 5, 6, 7, 8 yards a pop, but they're not getting the opportunity, so you wouldn't see something like this happen. But tonight, they got the opportunities, and look what they did with it. They dominated. Kimbo Raider says, how about those Raiders? How did you rate our offensive line? The offensive line got an A++++++. Everybody gets a plus on that line. Even Austin Howard, who surrendered the lone sack of the night, gets an A++. They were dominant tonight. They opened up rushing lanes. The backs did a great job of finding those lanes and exploiting them. They protected Derek Carr for the most part tonight, gave him ample time to surgically pick apart this Broncos defense. It was all about the Raiders up front. That's where this game was won. I told you that, and the offensive line had a huge hand in that. Andrew Kim said, did you change your lighting? LOL. I actually did change my lighting. Damn, you notice everything. I Break for Rapper says, who do you think is the best quarterback in the AFC West? I've already went on record as saying that it's still Phillip Rivers for me. But Derek Carr, and it's only Phillip Rivers because he's been doing it at such a high level for such a long time. And I think what's even more impressive with Phillip Rivers right now is that he's doing it with much lesser weapons than anybody else in the division is doing it with. I mean, you look at what Carr has. He has a boatload of weapons at his disposal. Phillip Rivers doesn't have those kind of weapons, and yet he's still putting up stupid numbers with guys you've never heard of. So I still give it to Phillip Rivers, but I tell you what, man, Derek Carr, you know how I feel about Derek Carr. The 4 Carr is right there. If it's 1A, 1B for me. It's hard for me to even put Derek Carr that far behind him. To me, they're right side by side, 1A, 1B. Andrew Kim says, maybe the Ravens should have paid more to KO because, damn, he's good with the Raiders. I thought you should have held on to KO anyway. Kelechi Assembly now, were you going to be willing to pay KO what the Raiders were willing to pay him? That's the question. Raiders got plenty of money to spend. They got plenty of money. They got plenty of money. They got money to spend. Do you? That was the question. I don't know if you could afford it to keep KO and pay him the kind of money the Raiders paid him. Bernard 5436, Kelechi Assembly was a monster tonight. Hell, our O-line played like monsters. Those boys were lights out. I mean, they looked like the Space Jam monsters out there, and they played like them, man. You hit them high, hit them high, hit them high, and you hit them low, hit them low, hit them low. I hit them high, hit them high, hit them high, and you hit them low, hit them low, hit them low. They hit them high. They were killing them all night with those Oakland Raiders offensive linemen. They were dominant. Andrew Kim says, I saw Donald Penn toss Von Miller like a rag doll, and a $114.5 million rag doll, that is. Von Miller's still the man, don't get it twisted, but Donald Penn is a hulking figure. And Donald Penn is funny because at one point I thought Donald Penn's career was over. And at least as a starter, at least as a guy you could rely on. And Donald Penn looked damn good tonight. There was one play, and I think the play you're referencing is when Von Miller spun to the inside and Donald Penn was having none of it. Rode him all the way to he went from the C gap all the way over to the opposite B gap and then tossed his ass on the ground at the end. I think that's the play you're referencing. Dre the Great says, how was the addition of Kelechi Assembly transform this O-line in the run game? Raiders were 28th in the run last year. Look, the Raiders can run the football this season. They just haven't run it enough. And I've went on Will to Win, and I've said that on the Raiders program. I've said that on my shows. Every week I look at the numbers, and it is a different guy every week. One week it's DeAndre Washington, and he's got 7 carries for 35 yards. That's 5 a pop. Okay, could have got some more touches. One week it's Jalen Richard, and he's got 9 for 45, and that's 5 a pop. And I'm like, why is he not touching it more? Then the next week it's Murray, and he's got 14 for 72, and I'm like, hey, why isn't he running more? That's over 5 a pop. Stop. But they just don't. The Raiders can run the ball. It's just inconsistency with the play calling that troubles me there. Alan Dilworth says, if the Raiders O-line can stay healthy with Carr and the receivers, can this team become a dynasty? Let's slow down there, Cowboy. Dynasty, that's a big D word. Don't do that. You got to win 1 before you can even start talking about winning 2. You got to win 2 before you can even start using the D word. So, no, you can't use the D word. That's not allowed. What you can say is, can they be a triple P? For those of you that aren't familiar with the Louie Tee Network vernacular, let me school you on what a triple P is. A perennial playoff participant. Can they be that? You damn right they can. They can be a triple P. So with what they have, and most of that nucleus is young, they stay healthy, keep that core together, they're going to be around for a while. And usually when you got a quarterback that is like Derek Carr, like the 4 Carr, and he's young, he's going to give you a chance for years to come. So, yeah. They could be a triple P moving forward. Really like what I see out of them. Andrew Kim says, when Capri Bibbs scores the longest TD, you know your offense is stagnant. When Capri Bibbs has the most receiving yards and he's only got 1 catch and that's 69 yards and a touchdown, you know you've had a rough night. A Break for Rapper says, do you agree that the AFC West is the best division in NFL? I'm biased, so I wanted to say the NFC East, but yes, the AFC West is the most competitive division. You've got 7-2, 6-3, 6-2. And so, I mean, you're talking about a top-heavy division with the Chargers as the worst team in your division. And I think the Chargers are one of the best, what are they now, 4-5? One of the best, they're the best 4-5 team in the league. It's not even close. So, yeah, I'd go with the AFC West, with the NFC East slightly behind. Dre the Great says, how can gaining Mario Edwards, Sean Smith, and Alden Smith after the bye help this defense? Question is Mario Edwards healthy? I mean, he was supposed to be back by now, and the fact that I haven't heard much about his recovery and where he is and he's not on the field makes me think that injury is a little bit more severe than we've been led to believe. We'll see what happens there. Sean Smith is a guy that he's meh. I don't really worry about him. Alden Smith would be the key there because that's more pass rush. If you could get him back, we'll see what the commissioner decides to do with reinstating him. But, man, the thought of getting anybody like Edwards or Smith back on his defense and not Sean, I'm talking Alden, that would be huge for a defense that to me is getting better and better as the weeks pass. See what else we got. Mind Draw says, I'm so happy for the Raider Nation. Every year saying this is going to be the year they flip the switch, and I think this is it. I'm excited for those guys too, man. They've been through hell, and I got a buddy of mine that is a huge Raiders fan, and he's talked about quitting a couple of times being a Raiders fan. It's been rough on him, so I'm excited for the Raiders fans as well, man. Bernard543 says, only dislike Seabass. I told you, you got to keep your eye on Seabass. He's starting to become very inconsistent. I already talked about Seabass tonight, and I talked about him last week when he missed a couple against Tampa. He's good for a miss a game now. Anything over 45, and I'm looking at Seabass out the corner of my eye like, man, you sure you're going to hit this? He's not sure at all. So he's one of those dudes that you got to keep your eye on. Andrew Kim says, a lot of teams passed on a potential great franchise QB because of his last name. Texans, we're talking to you. And I thought they were the team that needed to take Derek Carr, and because of his last name, they elected to pass. Robbie Sohal, and you see where they are at their quarterback position right now. Even though I'm a Brock Osweiler guy, you know that it's going to take time. Everybody matures at a different rate, but they could have had themselves a sweet Carr right now. Instead, they got B.O. So we'll see how that goes. Robbie Sohal says, who are your projected winners and dark horses in each division? Do I smell Lions? No, you don't smell the Lions. I'm not buying what the Lions are selling yet, Robbie. Still haven't watched that game, but I can assure you some nonsense went on in there that allowed the Lions to get out there with a W. I still believe in the Green Bay Packers as one of the wild cards when it's all said and done. So, no, I'm not smelling the Lions. But they did go into Minnesota and take down the division leader. That's going to say something maybe later on in the season, but we'll see. The Lions still are an inconsistent team to me. I'm not buying what they're selling, but to be 5-4 at this point, that speaks volumes about this Lions team. Remember, they were 1-3 at one point in this season. But to get back to your original question, division winners, let's start in the AFC. I still think that when it's all said and done, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win, and that's who my original pick was when the season started. I still think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be the AFC West champs. They've already beat the Oakland Raiders in Oakland. Nobody's talking about the Chiefs. Quietly, they're 6-2 right now. Right, a game out of first place, right there. I foresee them winning next week versus Carolina, getting to 7-2, and having a share of first place. I still think the Chiefs are a dangerous team in the AFC West. In the AFC North, I still think it's going to be the Steelers, even though they lost today. Roethlisberger's first game back, he was rusty. You could tell they struggled in a number of areas, gave up a touchdown on special teams. The Ravens aren't good. I'm not buying what they're selling either. I'm going to take the Steelers in that division. And then I think the other two divisions, we pretty much know what's going to happen there. Texas are going to win that division by default. And in the AFC East, come on, man. It's the Patriots all day, every day. You know that. I don't have to tell you that. Then you go to the NFC side of things. The Cowboys have already run away with the NFC East. Unless, barring an unforeseen collapse of epic proportions, they're going to win the NFC East. NFC South is the Atlanta Falcons to lose, much like the Dallas Cowboys division in the East to lose. And the NFC North, that's anybody's guess. I think that's the one division that's up for grabs in the NFC. I still believe, however, that when it's all said and done, either the Packers or the Vikings find a way to get that division. If I had to pick a team, I'd still pick the Minnesota Vikings because they play defense. But man, oh man, I tell you what, they're struggling offensively, and I don't know if they can fix what's broken with that offense. So we'll see. Maybe the Lions might find a way to sneak that division. We'll see. That's up for grabs, though. That's debatable. That's the one division I really can't put my finger on right now because I didn't see the Packers losing to the Colts today, and they did. So I have questions there. And then, of course, in the NFC West, that's Seattle's division. Arizona stinks, and they're the only team that can compete with them in that division. And so there you have that. Dark horses. I don't think there's many dark horses. I think maybe your Lions are definitely a dark horse. If you want to put them in that category, knock yourself out there right there. But hard to put a team in the dark horse category when they're in second place in their division, and that's where the Lions sit right now. So that's how I feel about the divisions moving forward. Dre the Great says, why is the Raiders O-line not given enough credit? Everyone talks about the Cowboys. Least sacks allowed. I think people recognize the Raiders offensive line is dominant, but you know, when we associate dominant offensive lines, we more like to talk about the teams that can run it because that's more along the lines of one man taking another man and moving him against his will. That's more impressive than dropping into a pass set, anchoring down, and not allowing the guy across from you to get to your quarterback. And I think much like offensive coordinators get more credit for throwing the football than they do running it, I think offensive lines get more credit for running the football, which is what the Cowboys do best, than throwing it. And I think that's why you see the amount of love the Cowboys get and the Raiders quietly behind the scenes putting together one of the best offensive lines in the league, not getting as much credit. But I think people who watch football, people in the know exactly what's going on out there in Oakland with that offensive line. Let's keep moving down the line of questions. See what else we got. Let's see. Jason Moore says, picking against us 3 weeks in a row, LOL. You a believer now? You damn right I am. I'm sold, hook, line, and sinker. If I could pick your ass on your bye week next week, I would. I am sold as sold can be. I bought Raiders stock immediately after this game was over. I had to pay a lot of money for it, though. When you wait till a team gets to 7-2, you're not really going to make a lot of profit off that stock unless that stock skyrockets even more so. I got in late on the Raiders, I must admit. I've seen the Raiders do things before. Remember the year with Hugh Jackson when they started out like 6-3 and collapsed and finished out 8-8. I've seen this before, so I wasn't sure. I didn't want to jump on, but this is different. This is a lot different. And I bought Raider stock tonight, but again, I had to pay a pretty penny for it, and that's my fault. So I don't feel bad. Don't feel bad for me. Let's see. Bernard543 says, although Carr didn't have a TD, his composure was awesome. He's just awesome. You know, I told you every week he's going to give the opposition one opportunity to pick him off. And TJ Ward had that one opportunity and he wasn't able to come down with it. But other than that, that's what Carr is, man. He's cool, calm, and collected in the pocket, makes great decisions with the football, and he did it again tonight. The numbers don't speak to how well he played tonight. Dre the Great says, how do you feel about Musgrave's game plan to use the pass to set up the run? I think it was a perfect game plan. I thought that the game plan was okay, and I love the game plan actually in the first half. I didn't love the red zone execution in the first half, but I thought the third quarter game plan was atrocious. And even though they ate up a ton of clock, they didn't have anything to show for it. And I thought they were a little bit too conservative in the third quarter. You got a drive that eats up 7 minutes of the third quarter clock, and you still got a punt because you thinking we're just going to keep running the football. I didn't really agree with that, but I thought Musgrave was a lot more aggressive early in the game than he had been in past games, and that was good to see. I thought he mixed it up well. I think that's what he did best tonight. It was a good mixture of run and pass in the first half of this game, at least. Bernard543 says, how great was King's dancing? I got a kick out of Marquette King, man. He's a funny dude. I give him a hard time because he's the most flashiest kicker. Between him and Pat Mack out in Indianapolis, they like to have fun. But normally I get mad at Marquette because he likes to dance and do a whole bunch of other stuff and have all this swag, and then he'll kick the ball in the end zone for a touchback when you need him to down it inside the 5 or the 10. And tonight, he had every reason to dance, man. I was loving it because he did his job. And, you do your job, man, you can dance all the hell you want. And he did his job to the umpteenth degree tonight. I mean, he was special tonight. Gary Schopel says, Broncos lack leadership on both sides of the ball. No fire. Congrats to the Raiders. You earned this one. I feel like the defense doesn't lack fire, but the offense does. I definitely get that vibe. I didn't feel like anybody was like, come on. Like, normally that guy's Emmanuel Sanders. Like, he'll make a catch, he'll get up and give you a little something at the end and kind of get fired up. And he didn't get that catch tonight. That diving stab probably would have been the one right before the end of the first half, but he didn't make that catch, and he didn't have any catches where he was able to fire up the troops tonight. So, again, give that credit to the Raiders. I think they did a lot of that in this game. Izzy L says the Raiders are good. Yep, you damn right they are. That is for sure. And tonight proved it. If you don't know, now you know. Raiders. Peter Martinez says, what do you think of the defense going forward, especially with Mario Edwards and Alden Smith returning? I don't want to jump to conclusions. I don't know the status of Mario Smith. I don't know if Alden Smith's going to be reinstated anytime soon. So I don't want to jump to any conclusions. I will tell you this much. If those guys do come back and they are healthy, that's gonna do nothing but bode well for the Oakland Raiders defense moving forward. But right now, can't really say that that's going to be the case. So I don't want to jump to conclusions and say that those guys are going to be back. But if they are back, that's going to really bode well for the Oakland Raiders and their defense, because those guys are some legit players. They're ball players, and this Raiders defense could use ball players on their football team. Mr. TNA 2005 says, in my opinion, the Raiders O-line is the best in the league, Lou. Even better than the Cowboys one. What do you think? I think the Raiders offensive line is in the top 3 in the league. I think there's a discussion to be had with the Cowboys, Raiders, and the Redskins. I think the Redskins are the 3rd best offensive line behind the Raiders and the Cowboys. I still think the Cowboys have the most talented offensive line. It's younger. It's more talented. Those guys are going to be around for a lot longer. Donald Penn is in his 10th or 11th season in the league. He's playing at a really high level, but for how much longer is he going to be able to do that? You're going to have to replace him at some point. Whereas with Tyron Smith, this guy's going into the prime of his career. He hasn't even hit his apex yet. And all those other guys are first-round picks that have just come onto this roster. La'el Collins isn't even playing right now. He's injured, and he's damn good as well and only going to get better. I'll give the nod to the Cowboys, and I think the Cowboys even have a little bit more depth than the Raiders do. I mean, La'el Collins goes down for the rest of the season. They just stick in another guy, and they keep it moving in Dallas, and they don't miss a beat. I mean, Ronald Leary steps in, and it's like they never had any issues along their offensive line. And remember, Ronald Leary was there when DeMarco Murray went over 1,800 yards, so it's not like he's a slouch anyway. So I'll take the Cowboys first, Raiders second, Redskins third. Kimbo Raider says, do you think the Raiders are going to win the best division in the NFL? I already answered that question. I said I still think the Chiefs are going to win that division. Brian Mott, and that doesn't mean I don't believe in the Raiders. You can take it any way you want. You guys are on cloud 9, so you're probably going to be upset. That's fine. I don't mind. But I still think the Chiefs, who beat this Raiders team already, is the team to beat in that division. And I think you're going to find that out by season's end. Brian Moss says, this Broncos team is about to cave in on itself, and it makes me sad. They're not going to cave in. They're still a good team. They're still going to make the playoffs. But they got some issues that they have to resolve, that is for sure. They're in a dangerous spot. They could lose 2 straight again. Remember, they started the season off 4-0, then lost 2 straight, then won 2 straight. Now I think they could lose 2 straight because they're going to New Orleans next week. That New Orleans team playing some outstanding football right now, and the defense is playing better. And they scored a ton of points today against San Francisco, and they've been scoring a ton of points this year. That could be a dangerous matchup. With all the injuries starting to mount up for the Denver Broncos at the wrong time on the wrong side of the ball, look out in that game next week. Deron Johnson says the Ravens beat the Steelers today. The defense did a great job stopping the run. That they did. Banana Sherbert says, what do you think so far, Carl Joseph? Love Carl Joseph. I told you, and I said this on the Will to Win program, that I thought that Carl Joseph was starting to get it. And he plays with a level of aggression that brings a smile to my face. Saw it at West Virginia, him roaming around the field like a heat-seeking missile. You're seeing it with this Raiders team now. He's starting to get to spots on the field faster because he's diagnosing plays faster, which allows him to play faster, which allows him to be more aggressive and violent. And I think he plays a violent brand of football that serves his team very well. Impressed with Joseph's development because early on, I thought he was a little tentative, didn't trust his eyes enough. Now he's starting to get to spots a lot quicker, and it's really helping this Raiders defense along. Let's see what else we got. Blackbird Blitz says, are we ready to say the Broncos are overrated? No, I'm not ready. This is the thing. The expectations for the Broncos coming into the season were low. I think everyone thought that the Broncos were going to be bad. Most people did. I did. I thought they were a 6-win team. Of course, that was with Mark Sanchez, Dirty Chaz as their starting quarterback. Well, they got rid of Dirty Chaz, and they got Trevor Siemian, and he's been playing some solid football. Like I said, Trevor Siemian is good. He's not great. And so he's just a stopgap. I thought maybe he could be more. He's not. And I don't want to beat the young man up. I think he could actually start in this league with more time. But the Denver Broncos already drafted a quarterback in the first round in Paxton Lynch that they want to start. So I don't think Trevor Siemian's going to get that opportunity in Denver. Yeah, I think maybe he could get it somewhere else. Maybe he's a backup. Who knows? We'll see. I like Trevor Siemian, though. But bottom line is the Broncos weren't supposed to be good anyway. They're playing with house money. And because they won a Super Bowl, because they started out the season better than anybody expected, we just assume, oh, same old Denver Broncos. No, it's not the same team. We knew they took some hits defensively with some of the guys they lost in free agency last year. This is an offense that is okay. It's good. It's not great. And you saw that again tonight. So are they overrated? No, I don't think they're overrated. I think they're a solid football team that's going to have a shot. And they're going to be around when the season's done. They're going to be around. Let's see. Ricky Lemmermeyer says, Carr for MVP. I'm for it. Sign me up. I told you I thought Derek Carr and Matty Ice, Matt Ryan out there in Atlanta, were your 2 MVPs of the league right now in terms of the race. To me, and you know, everybody wants to throw Tom Brady. Go ahead, throw him in there. That's fine. Matt Ryan and Derek Carr. That's the 2 guys on my ballot. You know, you want to throw Tom Brady in there? He's an independent right now. He's not a Democrat or a Republican. He's an independent. I'm not even looking at Tom Brady. He doesn't even get invited to the debate. Okay, if I'm having a debate, I'm inviting Derek Carr and I'm inviting Matt Ryan. That's what I'm doing. Claude W says, what's your midseason Super Bowl prediction? I don't have one. I'm not going to even lie to you. I want to let the season play out first. When you get to the playoffs, then I can tell you who I think is going to win it all. But right now, it's too hard to say because injuries can impact things. Teams change. I mean, this Raiders team was horrible on defense just 3 weeks ago. And all of a sudden now they're playing lights out defense. Things change so rapidly in this league. I'd be remiss if I sat here and tried to give you a Super Bowl prediction. So, with that being said, I have no more comments. Like Mo Hunnit says, will we get 3 playoff teams out of this division? Yep, you will. All 3 of those teams in the AFC West will make the playoffs. Just look at the rest of the AFC landscape, and that will tell you all you need to know. Who else is going to unseat one of those AFC West teams? Is it going to be, let's run through these teams quickly. Is it going to be somebody from the AFC North other than the division winner? Cincinnati getting into the playoffs? Baltimore? Cleveland? Come on, man. What about the AFC South? Anybody but the division winner getting in? Tennessee? Indy? Stop. Jacksonville? Come on now. Stop. So who else is going to stop this division from reigning supreme? AFC East. What, the Dolphins going to win the rest of their games? They're going to be the Kansas City Chiefs this season from last year? Hell no. It's the Patriots, and that's it. Bills are going to fall off. Dolphins are going to fall off. The Jets are bad. Yada, yada, yada. So just look at the AFC landscape, and it tells you all you need to know. So with that being said, Raiders, get it done. Dominate this game 30-20. Do it in impressive fashion. Go into their bye week on a high. These guys are on cloud 9. And you can't tell a Raider fan nothing right now. And for good reason. Their boys went out and had themselves a whale of a ball game. They dominate this game. 30-20 doesn't do it justice how well the Raiders played and dominated the Denver Broncos in this game. For the Denver Broncos, it's fine. You lost this game. You're 6-3. Don't let one loss turn into 2. You got a tough New Orleans Saints team that's playing good football coming up next week. Find a way to win that one. Get to your bye week at 7-3. All is forgotten. You lose that game too, and now all of a sudden, a lot of questions. Okay, a lot of questions for this Denver Broncos team. The schedule does soften up. You get some of those softies that the Raiders have played already later on in your schedule. So you'll get a chance to get healthy later on, but you got to find a way to navigate this tough portion right now while you're dealing with injuries. This next game is going to be huge for you as you try to bounce back from this big-time crushing loss on the road on primetime to the Oakland Raiders. You're only one game back in this division. And I know the Chiefs are right there lurking. It's fine. You're fine. It's okay. For the Raiders, big win. Don't allow this win to go to your head. Continue to grind. Continue to check off the boxes. You want to be a division leader? Right now, you're the second best team in the AFC. Think about that. Ponder that for a second right now. You're only behind the Patriots by half a game, and that's because you haven't had a bye yet. Think about that for a second. Ponder that. Let that marinate. That you're the second best team in this conference right now. Stay there. Don't allow this win to define your season. Stay there. Keep winning games. Keep beating good teams. That's what you got to do. Build off of this. Don't let this be the high point and the high mark of your season. Remember when we beat, you're supposed to be saying this a month from now. Remember when we beat Denver? We thought that was the biggest game. To hell with that game. We on to bigger and better things. Keep dominating. This should be a stepping stone to greater things, to greener pastures if you're the Raiders. But hell of a win, like I always tell teams after big wins and fans after big wins, celebrate! Your team just went out and dominated the other team that was supposed to be in first place in this division. Raiders, get it done 30-20, go to 7-2 on the season, and take sole possession of first place in the AFC West in week number 9, going into their bye week. Man, are they going to have some fun this week with that bye week? Raiders fans are going to have a lot to discuss. That's going to do it from your man Louie T here on Sunday Night Football Overtime. Raiders get it done 30-20. Big win. Big, gigantic win, handling a little bit of family business in dominant fashion. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on the Louie Tee Network. Remember, we're changing the game one live feed at a time. I will see you guys tomorrow. Monday Night Football Overtime will cap off all of the breakdowns on lockdown coverage. Until then, enjoy the rest of your night. I know Raiders fans will do exactly that. See you tomorrow.
Broncos won the Super Bowl when Peyton Manning retired. 49ers won 5 games and Tom Sula got fired. RG's in Cleveland and my Rams hit the West Coast. Be sleepless in Seattle cause that 12-man ain't beast mode. Oh yeah, I knew it was something I forgot to mention. Yeah, old Tom Brady about to get that suspension. Yeah, I know the Pats fans probably think that's whack. Yeah, but at the end of the day, your balls was flat. It's that time again. It's that time again to go hard in the offseason, cause we trying to win. We gon' go so hard, we don't take no days off. Hopefully one day it's all gonna pay off. Shout out Watch your defense, they tissue, cause they soft.